Every champion was once a contender who refused to give up. Rocky Balboa. We often see the winner's glory while forgetting the days when they were still unknowns, quietly fighting against failure, doubt, and their own fears. No one is born a champion. The title is just the final result, but the will is the foundation of it all. In life, most people are defeated not by hardships, but by the urge to give up when hardships arise. Failure is like a headwind. It is not meant to knock us down, but to test who has enough determination to keep moving forward. Ordinary people see obstacles and stop. Persistent people see obstacles and find a way to overcome them. That tiny difference in attitude creates a massive gap in the final outcome. A champion's mindset is not formed on the day of victory. It is forged in moments when no one is watching. It is when they keep trying after a painful defeat. It is when they stand up after criticism and mockery. It is when they maintain belief in themselves despite having no proof that success is near. Just as a sword must pass through fire and continuous hammer strikes to become sharp, we must endure pressure and challenges to discover our hidden strength. Interestingly, life rarely rewards the most talented, but rather offers opportunities to the most persistent. Talent may help you start faster, but persistence decides how far you go. Some possess extraordinary talent but quit early when facing difficulties. On the contrary, some start slowly and make constant mistakes, yet by relentlessly moving forward, they eventually reach heights that others never expected. If you are struggling with your goals today, do not rush to conclude that you lack the ability. Remember that every champion had days of weakness, moments of failure, and times they wanted to let go. What sets them apart is not that they never fell, but that they always stood up one more time. Every small step, every extra bit of effort, and every refusal to quit is quietly building the person you will become in the future. And who knows, perhaps the challenges you face today are the very first bricks on the road leading to the best version of yourself. Age is no barrier. It's a limitation you put on your mind. Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Too old to start, too young to succeed, too late to change. And the moment we believe those definitions, barriers begin to exist, not in the body, but in the mind. The mind is like a room with many doors. Age locks none of them, but false beliefs do. When someone says, "I am too old to learn something new," they are not describing biological reality, but a frozen psychological state. A state where safety is more important than growth, and familiarity is prioritized over self-expansion. But human history has never been written by those who believed it was too late. Some seeds sprout late, but grow into sturdier trees because they survived a long winter. Likewise, some people only truly begin to live fully when they stop measuring themselves by age and start measuring themselves by their ability to adapt. Age, in essence, is not a wall, but a river. It doesn't block the path. It only changes the speed of the flow. But when the human mind solidifies it into a wall, people begin to act as though they are restricted, gradually turning that limitation into reality. When you believe you cannot, you subconsciously act in ways that make it true. Conversely, when you believe that ability does not depend on age, you open up new behaviors, new choices, and new versions of yourself. Imagine someone standing before a closed door. If they believe they are no longer young enough to enter, they will stand in the hallway forever. But if they realize the door was never locked, and they only need to reach out, then the entire space behind it becomes a completely different world. Age, in that case, is merely light reflecting off the door, not a resisting force. The scary thing is not growing old, but stopping while there is still time. For life is measured not by the years that have passed, but by the extent to which we still dare to learn, change, and challenge ourselves again. A flexible mind can make age meaningless, while a closed mind can make youth a waste. I may win and I may lose, but I will never be defeated. Emmitt Smith. Failure is an external event, while being defeated is an internal state of the soul. A person may lose a match, miss an opportunity, or stumble before a goal, but they are only truly defeated when they give up their faith and will to move forward. Our greatest strength lies not in the ability to avoid failure, but in the capacity to recover from setbacks. Life is like a vast ocean where big waves constantly rise. No one can ask the sea to stop waving, just as no one can live without facing difficulties. The difference lies in how each person responds to those storms. Some see a wave and think the journey is over, but others view each wave as a lesson to learn how to steer their boat more steadily. Resilient people are usually not those who have never suffered. On the contrary, they are those who have tasted disappointment, loss, and disillusionment many times. They know what it feels like to have every door closed in front of them. They know the loneliness of working hard without seeing results. Yet those very experiences become a mental forge, turning them from rough stones into resilient diamonds. Pressure does not break them. Pressure reveals a strength they themselves did not know they possessed. The scariest thing in life is not failure. The scariest thing is letting failure define who you are. A single fall does not define a person's worth, just as a single rain shower cannot dictate an entire summer. The most successful people are often those who understand that results are temporary. Victory does not last forever, and neither does failure. Everything changes, except for the determination of those who refuse to surrender. You may not win every battle. You may have days when nothing goes your way. You may be tested by life with hardships that seem to exceed your limits. But as long as the fire of will still burns in your heart, as long as you keep standing up after every fall, you are not yet defeated. Because our greatest victory is not over others, but over despair, fear, and the urge to quit within ourselves. You just can't beat the person who never gives up. Babe Ruth. In many eyes, victory is often determined by talent, intellect, or favorable conditions. But looking closer at those who achieve extraordinary things, we realize that the most sustainable factor is not talent, but the ability to keep going when others have stopped. Someone may be stronger than you today, faster than you today, or even more successful than you today. But if you keep walking while they give up, the game is not over. Quitting usually begins in the mind before it manifests in action. We rarely collapse from a single hardship. We fall when we let small disappointments continuously erode our faith, just as water wears away stone, not because it is stronger, but because it flows without stopping. Persistence possesses a quiet but incredibly astonishing power. It does not produce instant results, but over time, it can change things that seemed unchangeable. Life is more of a marathon than a sprint. In a short race, speed may determine the winner. But in the long journey of life, the ability to sustain momentum is what makes the difference. Some start with a major advantage, but quickly burn out when they hit obstacles. Conversely, some start slowly and make mistake after mistake, but with each fall, they learn something new. Step by step, they accumulate experience, strength, and maturity until the gap between them and others gradually closes. A tree growing from a rocky crevice is a living testament to that power. It has no fertile soil or ideal conditions, yet it finds a way to dig its roots deeper and stretch toward the light. It is persistence that allows it to survive in a place where many thought life was impossible. People are the same. Hardships are not necessarily signs that you should stop. Sometimes they are just tests to see how badly you want what you are pursuing. What makes a person invincible is not that they have never failed, but that they refuse to let failure be the end. They see every stumble as a lesson, every mistake as a teacher, and every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger. When someone maintains that spirit, they become an opponent that life finds very difficult to conquer. For failure only wins when we choose to surrender. As long as the will exists and faith is nurtured, all hardships are merely temporary stops on the journey to success. If you are facing challenges today that seem too great, remember that strength does not lie in never falling. Strength lies in your decision to stand up once more. The person who never gives up may not win immediately, but over time, they possess the strongest weapon that is hard for anyone to defeat: a will that refuses to bow to adversity. The road to success is always rough. Willie Davis. Many see success as a mountain peak, bathed in brilliant glory, but forget that to stand on that height, one must traverse steep slopes, muddy paths, and countless moments of feeling unable to take another step. It is those rough paths that forge character, not the moment of glory at the destination. We tend to favor comfort and seek to avoid hardship. We want results to come faster, easier, and with less pain. But life operates on a different principle. The things of greatest value always require a proportional price. A seed that wants to become a giant tree must break its own hard shell, grow amidst rocks, and brave the wind and rain. If it were protected from every challenge, it would never grow strong enough to stand against storms. Humans are the same. Hardships are not random obstacles on the road. They are part of the training process that success demands. Interestingly, rough paths often bring lessons that smooth roads can never teach. When everything goes smoothly, we rarely realize our own limits. But when facing challenges, hidden qualities like perseverance, courage, and adaptability are gradually awakened. Pressure is like fire in a forge. It can melt weak metal, but it can also turn a raw iron bar into a sharp blade. The difference lies not in the fire, but in how we react to it. Many quit at the first potholes on their journey. They view difficulty as a sign that they are unfit or incapable. But successful people see it completely differently. They understand that obstacles are not signals to stop, but proof that they are moving forward. An athlete does not grow strong by resting continuously. Muscles only grow when subjected to tension and stress. Similarly, our spirit matures through the challenges we dare to face. The things that once caused us the most pain often become the things that make us the strongest. Years later, looking back on the journey, we are rarely proud of the easy days. What makes us hold our heads high are the difficult periods we successfully overcame. The scars of the journey are the evidence of growth, like the annual rings on a tree trunk telling the story of the stormy seasons it survived. If the road you walk today is full of twists, obstacles, and unexpected challenges, do not rush to think you are heading in the wrong direction. It is highly likely the exact path that all true success must tread. Remember that flat roads usually lead only to familiar places, while rough paths lead us to heights never reached before. Every step taken through difficulty not only brings you closer to your goal, but also transforms you into a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. The difference between the impossible and the possible lies in determination. Usain Bolt. In life, the boundary between failure and success is not always decided by circumstances, talent, or luck. Often, the most decisive factor is something invisible, yet incredibly powerful: determination. Determination is the fire that turns seemingly insurmountable limits into open doors. We are often bound by limiting beliefs. Facing a big goal, the brain tends to focus on difficulties, risks, and the possibility of failure. When that happens, the word impossible begins to appear in our thoughts like a high wall blocking the path ahead. But in reality, many walls in life are not built of stone or concrete. They are built of doubt, fear, and the habit of giving up too soon. Determination is the power that helps us break through those invisible walls. Imagine a river flowing to the sea. On its journey, it encounters massive rocks blocking its way. If water could think like humans, it might conclude that passing them is impossible. But water does not stop. It keeps flowing, keeps finding a way, and keeps eroding the obstacle day by day. In the end, what seemed motionless and invincible is conquered by ceaseless persistence. Human determination is like that water. It does not have to be powerful from the start, but if it is persistent enough, it can create changes that others deemed impossible. The history of every great achievement is traced with determination. Those who did extraordinary things did not always have the best conditions. They often started with limitations, failures, and skepticism from those around them. What set them apart was not that they saw an easier road, but that they refused to give up when the road got tough. While many stopped at the first closed door, they kept knocking. When others turned away in disappointment, they took one more step, and that step is often the one that changes a life. Interestingly, determination does not eliminate difficulties. It does not make the journey easier. Instead, it changes how we view obstacles. Those lacking determination see challenges as signs to stop. Those with determination see challenges as proof that their goal is worthy enough to pursue. Facing the same mountain, one sees impossibility, while the other sees an opportunity to conquer. When facing grand goals or circumstances that seem to exceed your capability, the most important thing is not asking if it is possible. What matters is asking yourself how determined you are willing to be. For many things once called impossible by the world became reality because of people who refused to accept limitations. The gap between the impossible and the possible sometimes lies not in capability, but in a determination big enough to keep going when everyone else has stopped. It is in those moments that what seemed impossible begins to become possible. You are never really playing against an opponent. You are playing against yourself, your own highest standards, and when you reach your limits, that is real joy. Arthur Ashe. Most people spend too much time looking at others, seeing how much faster, better, or further they have gone. But the most outstanding individuals understand one crucial thing. Their greatest opponent does not stand on the other side of the court, but exists within themselves. It is the laziness that must be overcome, the fear that must be tamed, the limits that must be shattered, and the better version of oneself waiting to be awakened. Constantly comparing yourself to others is like running on a treadmill with no end. No matter how much we achieve, we will always find someone better, wealthier, or more successful. If happiness is built on beating others, it will always be fragile and temporary. Today you are on top, but tomorrow someone might surpass you. But when the competition is directed inward, everything changes. The metric is no longer what others have done, but how much further you have come compared to who you were yesterday. Imagine a mountain climber conquering a peak. The mountain does not care how famous, wealthy, or admired they are. The mountain asks only one question: do you have the strength to push past your own limits? On that journey, the real enemy is not the other climbers. The enemy is the fatigue that makes the legs want to stop, the voice of doubt echoing in the mind, and the temptation to quit when the path turns steep. And each time we conquer those things, we step closer to our strongest version. The wonder of personal growth is that limits are not a fixed wall. They are like the horizon. Every time you move forward, you realize you can go further than you once thought. Great achievements in life usually begin the moment someone dares to push past a limit they once believed was impossible. It is in those moments that we discover sources of strength, courage, and latent potential we never knew we possessed. Real joy, therefore, does not lie in beating someone else. Defeating others only brings fleeting satisfaction, but conquering yourself creates a much deeper feeling. It is the pride of knowing you did not surrender. It is the fulfillment of realizing you have grown wiser, stronger, and more resilient. It is looking back at your old self and seeing that the gap between yesterday and today has been filled with relentless effort. If you want to be the best, you have to do things other people aren't willing to do. End quote. Michael Phelps. While most people desire outstanding success, very few are willing to pay the price it demands. Everyone loves looking at the mountain peak, but not everyone accepts climbing the steep cliffs to get there. That is why extraordinary achievements usually belong only to those who dare to step out of the comfort zone chosen by the majority. We like familiar things because they bring a sense of ease and low risk. When facing a major opportunity, a new challenge, or an ambitious goal, the mind often instantly conjures countless excuses to delay. It's not the right time. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? Those thoughts are like invisible ropes holding us right where we are. Remarkably, most people fail not from a lack of capability, but because they let fear make decisions instead of their aspirations. The best in any field understand that the difference is not made during easy times. It is made in the moments when others rest, but they continue to learn. It is made when others find excuses to give up, yet they persevere one step further. It is made when they accept the loneliness of pursuing a path that most do not understand or lack the courage to walk. Success, therefore, is not just a reward for talent. It is a reward for courage. Imagine a young eagle standing on the edge of a cliff, preparing to spread its wings for the first time. To it, the void ahead is full of uncertainty and dread. Instinct urges it to stay in safety, but if it doesn't dare to jump, it will never know how high it can fly. Human life is much the same. A great deal of potential remains buried not because of a lack of ability, but from a lack of courage to take the first leap. Interestingly, the things others are not willing to do are often not overly extraordinary actions. Sometimes, it is simply waking up earlier to study, while others are still asleep. It is practicing diligently for months without seeing immediate results. It is accepting public failure to pursue a grander goal. It is standing up after every stumble instead of seeking comfort in quitting. These actions might seem small, but when repeated long enough, they build a massive gap between the ordinary and the outstanding. Our greatest limitations usually lie not in external circumstances, but in internal barriers. Fear of failure, of judgment, of rejection, or of being different makes many choose to live within their current capacity instead of exploring their hidden potential. But great individuals understand that growth always lies on the other side of fear. They do not wait to feel confident before acting. They act and build confidence from there. Don't measure yourself by what you have accomplished, but by what you should have accomplished with your ability. John Wooden. Evaluating yourself based only on achievements is like measuring the ocean with a few drops of water in your palm. Achievement is the result of circumstances, timing, opportunities, mental health, and countless variables beyond control. Meanwhile, ability is a far grander ecosystem. It is your potential when placed in the best conditions, challenged appropriately, and freed from the fear of failure. Imagine a seed buried in the cold ground, looking only at the surface. One would say it has done nothing, but evaluating it by its potential, we see an entire forest sleeping inside. Humans are the same. Some live their whole lives without ever reaching their maximum version, not because they are weak, but because they used the wrong standard to measure their worth. When we look only at achievements, we easily fall into feelings of inadequacy or complacency. But when we look at ability, we enter a different state, the state of growth. There, the question is no longer, am I enough? But how far can I go if I dare to take one more step? And the moment we change that metric, life is no longer an inventory of the past, but an endless journey of self-expansion. Whoever said, it's not whether you win or lose that counts, probably lost. Martina Navratilova. When people fail, they tend to redefine the rules of the game to ease the pain. Winning or losing doesn't matter is sometimes not a life philosophy, but a defense mechanism of the ego. When the result is not as desired, the mind immediately seeks to downplay it, making failure unimportant to avoid facing the feeling of hurt. In that sense, the quote is like a mirror reflecting straight into self-rationalization. Are we truly rising above the game, or just trying to soothe the pain of losing it? But looking deeper, the issue is not simply winning or losing, but where one stands when making that statement. Some have indeed experienced enough bumps, victories, and defeats to understand that value does not lie entirely in the outcome. Yet others, after just one fall, hastily declare winning or losing doesn't matter as a spiritual cloak, hiding the fact that they have not yet stood up. When the ego is threatened, we not only feel pain, but also invent stories to protect our self-image. And sometimes, those very stories keep them standing still in failure even longer. However, if we only look at the quote negatively, we fall into another trap, equating a person's entire worth with victory. Life is not a linear scoreboard where all value is reduced to absolute winning or losing. There are losses that serve as profound transformations, and there are wins that mark the beginning of stagnation. The danger is not failure itself, but when we lose the ability to learn from it. In that case, winning or losing doesn't matter, is no longer maturity, but a relinquishment of responsibility for one's own journey. Do not use philosophy to cover up unresolved failure, but at the same time, it forces us to ask, are we fighting to win, or are we living to understand how to become better through each game? A mature person is not one who always wins, nor one who always says winning or losing doesn't matter, but someone who dares to look straight at the outcome without self-delusion, yet without letting it define the entire value of their existence.